been a while, but let's pick up where we left off, shall we? M2M's always been in the news over the past couple of years, and it's now being applied to cars and things like that. Normally when you buy a car, you'll splurge a bit more for alloy wheels or flash CD player or whatever it might be, but now you can get a sort of virtual go faster stripe in the form of M2M apps.
Well, this was inevitable, wasn't it? Because after 1995, all cars have these diagnostic ports on them. So a company in the States has developed a kind of module which you then, it's only about this size, but you put it into the diagnostic port, and that has, cellular, and it has a processor and everything in it, so you can download apps to it. So it acts like a little smartphone sitting in the car, but it'll do these wonderful applications. Like, for instance, if you had a teenage child who you lent the car to, which you may well have for all we know, if he goes out and speeds, the thing will report back to the cloud and alert you to the fact that he's speeding. So it's a bit of a Big Brother-ish application, that one. But you can imagine all the different sorts of things you can do. You can maintain full control of your consumption, for instance. You can see how the petrol's going. Everything that car does as a sort of heartbeat, basically this device will send it back to the cloud as an M2M application, of course, and then you can have applications like smartphone applications sort of thing, which enable you to derive information about it.
Does it tell you when it's time to sell it?
Oh, probably does as well. That's it. Get rid of it quick. So as we know, Martin, the regulatory environment in the States is very different from here in Europe. In the States, the companies themselves do the regulating, and the regulator basically does what it's told.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? You would think so in one of the cases we've seen recently, but suddenly the FCC's grown a few teeth. And Verizon went to the FCC with a complaint. The FCC said, look, you've got to allow competitors, small ones, or small rural telcos all over the States, you've got to allow them to compete. You've got to give them access, and you've got to do it on a reasonable, moderate basis of cost. They didn't like that, so they appealed to the Federal Appeals Court. The Federal Appeals Court last week said, if they don't want to do this, and if they don't want to be regulated, they don't believe in it, you may choose not to provide internet services, mobile internet services at all. Which is, in other words, saying, if you don't want to play, you don't have to. Go away. And that's it. So it's very, very interesting, because there's been filibustering and deliberate delay involved, and there's a couple of professional bodies for the rural telcos which have been complaining that when they applied to Verizon and to AT&T for a proposal, it's been taking 8 months to a year to get one. And when they get one, it's way, way, way beyond in cost the sort of thing that Verizon is.
Reasonable cost.
Yeah, exactly. So no reasonable cost. So basically it's been Verizon wants to be regulated when it's fine for it, or when it's regulating against our competitors, but they don't like it up them.
No.
Now, Ian, you've been fulminating mightiously over the past couple of weeks about what's going on in Dubai with the ITU. The ITU, of course, being this part of the UN agency, venerable, God knows how old it is, 150 some odd years. It's been losing relevance and lustre in recent years, as we've seen in our careers, and they want to get influence back basically by hook or by crook.
By hook or by crook, or by, as the Americans would say, taking over the internet. Well, they don't quite want to take over the internet, but they want to have a bit more of a say on behalf of the telecoms industry and how the internet develops, and how the revenues are shared and so on. So it's going to be very interesting. There's a real standoff building up here where, actually they can't really make regulations. So a lot of this is a bit of a waste of time, really, because they can pass all of these ITRs, if you like, but any country can abrogate from them anyway. So the Americans have had a very, very long history of abrogating from all of the conditions that have been set by the ITU and just not ignoring them completely, which they've done right from the beginning. And they did over the last couple of WICETs, as well as it's called, the World Conference on International Telecommunications. So we see that's going to happen again if all the other countries pass these ITRs which interfere with the internet by having, for instance, user pays conditions attached to it, or by having security regulations and so on, which they seem to be working towards. They will simply abrogate from the treaty, and probably a lot of the other countries will too. So it's going to be very interesting, another week or so, to see what actually happens.
So basically overall a waste of time and effort?
I think, a lot of stores being set by it because it's a frame for future development, and not so much a set of regulation, but it's a direction of travel that the Americans and the internet people don't want to see happen. So I think it'll be ignored anyway, even if it does come out. The big story in the UK a couple of years ago, Martin, was, of course, HP taking over one of our big software houses, Autonomy. And the chickens have kind of come home to roost on that, haven't they?
They sure have. Autonomy was a big success story in this country and in Europe. HP were looking around for something to buy because they want to be big in big data. And that's the sort of thing they thought that Autonomy software would give them this big market advantage. So basically they paid way, way over the odds for it. They've had a look at what's happened as a result. They've had to write down a massive amount of money. And, you know, you'd think a big company like HP, and it's got form here before. Look at what happened with EDS. Yeah. Exactly the same thing. Huge, what they call goodwill impairment charge. Palm also. Which means basically we paid too much for this and we've got to write it off the books. They've done it again with Autonomy. But this time, instead of saying, oh, yeah, we've done it again, should we sack the CEO? How long has she been there? A couple of weeks? Yeah, better get rid of her. They are saying, well, no, this is fraud. The company has misled us and we are going to pursue them. So they're pursuing through the SEC in New York and through the Serious Fraud Office in London, which is a joke in itself because the Serious Fraud Office, as you know, in the UK hardly ever gets anybody. So they're a waste of time there. And basically what HP is doing, it's done due diligence with the biggest accounting companies on the planet on this company. It's gone through, they've bought, they've had to write down billions as a result. It's pushed HP into loss in Q4, and now they're saying, we're going to sue you because you didn't tell us the truth when we looked at the books. What does everybody say to that, especially on this side of the Atlantic? Tough luck. Caveat emptor.
Okay.
And the end?
Oh, the end. Well, that is the end, really.
Oh, God, yes, the end. Okay.
I'm thinking of becoming a Father Christmas.